Hey, it's Rich DeSisto back in the basement and about to head into the bunker. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and click that bell button for future video alerts. Hey, it's Rich DeSisto. Welcome to the bunker, episode 5, as I continue to self-isolate in the basement and share my vinyl collection from A to Z, picking out some of my favorite titles. You know, this all started out as kind of a tribute to what was to be Record Store Day, April 18th this year. Really, any day you get an opportunity to thumb through those record bins, it's Record Store Day, right? But due to COVID-19, Record Store Day was postponed. The plan is virtual and a three-parter now, August 29th, September 26th, and October 24th. Next year, Record Store Day is scheduled for April 17th. Fingers crossed. In my previous episode, I featured the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' Let It Be with my friend Andre Gardner. Thank you, Andre. If you missed it, check out my YouTube page where you can get caught up and binge. And don't forget to subscribe. Today in episode 5, the letter B is still in play. And the next album I pulled from the shelf is Bad Company's self-titled debut. You know, there are a lot of albums that were debut albums that I can think of in retrospect that could be considered greatest hits albums, right? The Cars, Boston, The Doors, Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, Led Zeppelin, and Bad Company. Speaking of Led Zeppelin, in May of '74, after Zeppelin's 5-year deal with Atlantic Records expired, their manager Peter Grant launched a new record label called SWAN. The plan was to use it as a vehicle for Zeppelin to promote its own products and to be able to sign other artists. A few Zeppelin albums were released on SWAN, and so were some Robert and Jimmy solo albums. A British band called The Pretty Things was the first UK release to appear on SWAN. And Bad Company's self-titled debut became the first American release on SWAN. Released 46 years ago this past June 26th, Bad Company, who was also managed by Peter Grant, recorded some of their debut album at the infamous 3-story stone house in England called Headley Grange. It's the same Headley Grange where Zeppelin recorded some of Zeppelin 3, Zeppelin 4, Houses of the Holy, Physical Graffiti. It's also where Robert Plant wrote most of the lyrics to Stairway to Heaven in a single day. Other artists have captured the magic of Headley Grange over the years, like Peter Frampton, Fleetwood Mac, Genesis. In September of '74, it reached the top of the US Billboard 200 chart, number 3 in the UK, spent 25 weeks on the UK chart thereafter, been certified 5 times platinum, became the 46th best-selling album of the '70s. Wow, pretty good for one of rock's earliest supergroups, right? The next 6 years, they followed up with 4 more successful albums back-to-back before they broke up in the early '80s. But then in 1985, Atlantic Records wanted Simon Kirke and Mick Ralphs to get the band back together. But unfortunately, Paul Rodgers was invested in the firm with Jimmy Page. So instead, they're introduced by Foreigner's Mick Jones to Ted Nugent's former singer, Brian Howe. Brian was then replaced by Robert Hart in '94. And in 1995, at Peter Grant's funeral, the original guys of Bad Company met up again, which became the precursor of things to come. The 1999 reunion. With David Lee Roth as the opening act, the original foursome hit the road for a 32-date U.S. reunion tour. But that's all it was. Afterwards, the 4 went their separate ways again. Fast forward 10 years later, and they decided to give it another go in 2009. Although unfortunately without original bassist Boz Burrell, who died in 2006. This time though, things seemed to be picking up momentum, and Bad Company was back. As this next phase of Bad Company was building new ground, more bad news came. Co-founder Mick Ralphs had a stroke in 2016 and was unable to continue to perform. And this past May, singer Brian Howe passed away. You know, until the coronavirus, Bad Company was still an active touring band, but like many, they were forced to cancel or postpone their plans this year. In the meantime, we as fans can only dive into the recordings that remain timeless. And in this case, a collection of songs from a bunch of guys who at the time were looking for a new path from the one before. Both Paul Rodgers and Simon Kirke were just kids, 18, when they were part of their previous band, Free. A band in their own right that sold more than 20 million albums around the world from 1968 to 1973. But with all bands, tensions rise and egos form, things go south. And one of the lessons Paul Rodgers learned and took with him post-Free was the importance of a band's name. Both Bad Company and Free come with their own stories. And here's Paul Rodgers telling one story about when Free toured and how they were always misunderstood in their marketing. Concert goers thought their shows were indeed free. He goes on to also enlighten us how the name Bad Company came about when he and Mick Ralphs hooked up for the first time and began writing songs for that new band.
Alexis corner turned up. He actually walked in right in the middle of, we were doing Moonshine for the first time. So we took a break, and he said, you guys sound really good. All you need now is a name. Everybody sort of went very pensive, and he said, well, if this helps you, I used to have a band called Free at Last. There was another little silence. Somebody said, well, it's got to be Free then. I think we all just, when the light went on, it's got to be Free then. Because it was so of the era. You had Cream, you had Hendrix. You weren't the Free, right? It was Free, and that was it. It was an interesting name because initially, when we first came out, people thought it was a free show, and they turned up expecting to get in for nothing. We had a bit of a tussle there till people understood that, no, it's not free, it's free. You see, they weren't getting this. So we had a horrible tour there for a while till it got sorted out. We'd gone to America, and I loved America, but we were floored by the size of everything. We were touring with Blind Faith, so we were doing huge venues, you know, the big Madison Square Gardens and all that. We were overwhelmed by America, and I think when Mick and I got together and we started writing songs, I wanted to be equipped to go to America, and I thought it really needs a tough name, you know, something that will make heads turn. And I had noticed a lot of people using the word bad as a good thing. Hey man, those boots are bad. You know, and it means good, right? You know, these guys are bad, you know. And so Mick and I were writing lots of songs, and we were also looking for a name. So we'd call each other up and say, you know, 4 million air bubbles. Nah, hang up, you know. So I called him up one day and I went, Bad Company. And there was this like, I said, hello? He said, I dropped the phone, man. That's great, that's it.